Hi guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments. Before we get to the meat and potatoes of today's video, we got to do a review of a lot of the prominent grading companies that serve the antiques and collectibles trade. Now, to be fair, I am going to gloss over some of the smaller companies, some of the smaller competitors that may not have the credibility and the respect that some of the main competitors have that we all know, love, and loathe. But in this video, I want to set this up perfectly because we're going to be talking about CGC deciding to enter the trading card grading business at present time. So before we even get started on that, let's look at the main players in the certified collectibles marketplace at present time. Now, standing alone in one corner is Wada Games, and I don't mean that as an insult. What I mean is if you send an item to Wada Games to get graded, it better be a video game because all they grade is video games at present time. On the other side of the spectrum, when we talk about sports cards or non-sports cards, you've got Beckett, BGS. If you want them to grade something, it better be either a sports card or a non-sports trading card for them to grade. Now, aside from those two outliers, most of the other companies, not all, but most that you encounter are pretty much owned by one of the three major players in the third-party grading and certification business. The first we're going to talk about is the Certified Collectibles Group. The Certified Collectibles Group is out of Sarasota, Florida. The Certified Collectibles Group owns CGC, Comics Guarantee Corporation. They grade comic books and some other items, which we're going to talk about in a bit here. NGC, which grades coins. PMG, which grades paper money, currency, one of my favorite things to collect, wink, wink. And there's also some smaller divisions within those companies that cater to smaller esoteric markets, to be fair. Now, Certified Collectors Group, their main competitor overall is Collectors Universe. Collectors Universe is made up predominantly of two companies, PCGS, which is the gold standard of coin grading at present time, and also PSA. PSA is a main competitor of Beckett, BGS. They grade sports cards and non-sports trading cards, as most of us are already aware. Now, to further complicate things, there is another grading conglomerate that a lot of people get confused about because they keep thinking that it's related to the Certified Collectibles Group out of Sarasota, Florida, that owns CGC, NGC, and PMG. Well, most people don't realize this. The Collectible Grading Authority, as it's called, is actually located out of Georgia, and there's four divisions to the Collectible Grading Authority. They are AFA, Action Figure Authority, for those of you that collect vintage toys, vintage Star Wars figures. I'm sure in eBay listings, auction listings, you've probably come across AFA at some point. The other three companies that they control are Collectible Doll Authority, yes, Collectible Doll, DOLL Authority, Diecast Authority for Hot Wheels, vintage Matchbox cars and the like, and also, wait for it, Video Game Authority, VGA. This is why, if you guys probably noticed, if some of you guys start bashing VGA in the comments section of some of my videos and then go on to state that you collect graded Star Wars figures, graded by AFA, I usually end up leaving a sarcastic remark, sorry to say, because AFA and VGA are owned by the same company. They're owned by the Collectible Grading Authority out of Georgia. That's why the grading scale for VGA is exactly the same as this grading scale for action figures, AFA. It came out of the toy grading scale that was created in the late 1970s, 1980s, when toy collecting became a thing and everybody wanted to grade toys from a 0 to 100 scale to complicate the market a little bit more than it already is, but it'll never be as complicated as coin grading, which uses the Sheldon scale of 0 to 70. We have to confuse things even further. Now, where am I going with this? Well, let's analyze this for a bit. CGC makes a decision to get into the graded trading card business with a focus on collectible card games, mainly Pokemon and Magic. So this division that they're opening up called CGC Trading Card Grading is solely going to focus on grading Pokemon and Magic the Gathering cards, and possibly in the future, other collectible card games as well. That being said, we got to analyze, was this a wise decision on their part? And is this really an added bonus to the marketplace and collectors overall? Now, I want to state something up front. I deal with a lot of these companies. I deal with clients who use these companies. I myself use all of these companies. I consider them very reputable. I have no issues with them directly, and I want to make clear of that. Even Wada Games, that I like to pick on for manipulating the market, overall, if you're going to grade video games, VGA and Wada are both top-tier companies, guys. Every grading company makes mistakes. Some people, I think, are very hard on grading companies when they do make a mistake, but as long as they rectify that mistake and learn from it, I'm okay with that. If they keep making the same mistake over and over again, that's where I have a problem. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, when I look at the plethora of items that a company like CGC grades, I cannot understand why they chose collectible trading cards to get into next. Let me explain. At present time, CGC operates in three main areas. The company is called Comics Guaranteed Corporation, but most people don't know this. Not only do they grade comic books, they grade lobby cards, which is a subgenre of movie poster collecting. I did a video on it a while back where I showed people some of my graded lobby cards out of my own personal collection. And they also grade, believe it or not, concert posters. Now, if the president and CEO of CGC, who I'm not going to name on camera, he's a great guy, honestly, I have nothing against him, is sitting down going over their strategy with the Bobs and the bean counters, to quote Rudy with Alpha Investments or Office Space before that, one of the things that I gotta wonder is, if they're going through markets that they could easily crack into and establish dominance, I question their strategy. And let me explain, guys. Again, this is what CGC grades at present time. Comic books, lobby cards, concert posters. There's one glaring omission in the collectibles marketplace that literally they could enter and dominate in. Do you want to know what market that is? Movie posters. No company at present time grades and certifies movie posters. CGC already has experience grading lobby cards, which is related to movie posters, and concert posters, mainly vintage concert posters. So they're already operating in the esoteric genres that strata the movie poster collectibles marketplace. But they looked at each other, must have had some excellent alcohol and who knows what at that table, and said, hey, rather than get into grading movie posters and dominate from that perspective, we're going to get into trading cards. Now, my mind is blown. Collectors of Pokemon, collectors of Magic the Gathering, I know you both watch this channel, whether you want to admit it or not. Come on, let's be honest. Numbers don't lie. When we analyze this, do you really think we need a third player in the collectible trading card grading business at present time? I mean, let's be honest. Most Pokemon collectors side with PSA to get their collectibles graded. Most Magic the Gathering collectors at present time choose Beckett, BGS, to get their collectibles certified. Now, to be fair, BGS does use subgrades, and it looks like CGC Trading Cards is going to use those similar subgrades that break down centering, edges, corners, and the like. So it looks almost to me that CGC is copying Beckett in regards to how they're going to approach grading these collectible card games going forward. But the one thing I cannot understand, and I am split on this to this day, I have a lot of respect towards CGC. Nothing against them. Never had a problem with them in my years of being in the trade, my years of buying vintage comic books, my years of selling vintage comic books, my years of advising other people about graded vintage comic books. Never had a problem with CGC. But this kind of rubs me the wrong way as a consultant in the antiques and collectibles trade, because what is it that you see that you can bring to the collectible trading grading market at present time when we already have two top-tier companies operating within that market. Again, I have to joke. I have no idea what they were smoking or drinking at the table when they came up with this plan. But again, I would have rather them see enter the market for vintage movie posters, even modern era movie posters. Get into that market and start establishing dominance. That market is dying for third-party grading and authentication. I'm dead serious. If you look at some of these auction houses, and again, I have nothing against any of these auction houses, whether we're talking about Hakes, Heritage, Comic Link to a lesser extent, because they really don't do anything with movie posters. I don't know if Certified Link does. But any of these grading companies, when they offer movie posters, in my opinion, when a consignor sends the collection to them, if they get an item that is on the cusp of very fine and or near mint, most auction companies, and again, this is not a knock against them, they're going to upgrade that item. Meaning if something is like an 8.5 to a 9.0, chances are to benefit the consignor and also the market as a whole, they're probably going to list that item on their site as a 9.0. This is why I tell you guys, if you guys want to get into traditional antiques, if you guys want to get into a lot of these more esoteric markets where no third-party grading exists, you've got to do your research. You cannot just pick up an auction catalog and go, oh, look, this auction company graded this item as near mint. I'm going to bid this price because that's what the last near mint item sold for. It doesn't work like that, guys. There's a lot of market research that goes into collecting those kinds of items. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. That's why I said antiques are great to learn. But the market for traditional antiques is very sophisticated, especially if you get into glass collecting, you get into antique furniture, even edged weapons and firearms are very sophisticated because grading is such a sensitive subject. You know, if you list something that's extremely rare and in demand as near mint, and really it's very fine, you are manipulating the market to the tune, in some cases, of tens of thousands of dollars. So I would have rather have seen CGC take a practical approach to this and go, you know what? We're already grading lobby cards. We're already grading concert posters. Let's get involved with grading vintage and or modern era movie posters and call it a day. That really would have been a boon to their service and their business, I think. I have no idea what they're seeing where they think that they should, at present time, compete with PSA and compete with Beckett. Now, to be fair, and I have to state this as a consultant in the trade, I understand that these markets are extremely hot right now, meaning the markets for graded Pokemon cards and graded Magic the Gathering cards. I have people on the consulting side of my business reaching out to me saying, Sean, I'm trying to get something pushed through for PSA, and they're backed up almost a full year in some cases. Beckett's just as bad in certain instances. So I understand that right now there is a tremendous speculative boom going on with Pokemon cards, with Magic the Gathering cards, and possibly other collectible card games. You know, people ask me about Yu-Gi-Oh! All the time. I personally don't like Yu-Gi-Oh! Because my point is there's nothing wrong with having exposure to Yu-Gi-Oh! If you are a quote-unquote investor. But why would you put your money in Yu-Gi-Oh! When Pokemon and Magic the Gathering are pretty much the two top competitors in that realm? I don't understand what you're seeing in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Market that makes you want to invest long-term in that specific market. It could also be that I hate Konami because they canceled Silent Hills for the PlayStation 4. Still a sour subject. We'll talk about that in another video, though, in all honesty. That being said, I must conclude with this. There is obviously something going on in these trading card game markets that CGC is seeing that is not obvious to the average participant. Or, to be fair, they're just eyeing the market and they said, you know what? It's very easy for us to get into this market. We can pretty much compete effectively with PSA and BGS because all the people that already have an account with us and are sending in all these vintage comic books, chances are they also collect Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. So we'll benefit highly in that regard. Now, another caveat that I want to throw out there is I'm sure PWCC, which is probably one of the biggest auctioneers that operates on eBay, that takes consignments in the sports card realm, the Pokemon realm, the Magic the Gathering realm. I'm sure at some point they will adopt to CGC trading cards as a predominant third-party grading company in this industry. There would be no reason for them to not accept submissions when consigners want to consign their items that are graded by CGC in that regard. That being said, it's going to be really interesting over the next 2 to 3 years to see how this plays out. Will PSA still remain the lead among Pokemon collectors? Will Magic the Gathering collectors still gravitate towards BGS? Will CGC divide the market entirely? It's going to be interesting how this goes, guys. I know one thing, I'm not too excited about this because I think it's going to create more confusion in the marketplace than what it's worth. So you may not agree with me in this video. I just wanted to share my thoughts. Feel free to share your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please consider subscribing. Have a good night, guys.